Hey.
Hey guys.
Welcome back to Green Thread. It's as usual your host, Allie.
And Alexis.
And we're back in the studio.
Hey, look at us.
It always feels so much more official like this.
Yeah, it does. By far. We've got our lights, we've got our microphones, we've got our headphones. We're popping.
Yeah, we're on film, like on literal film. It feels like a movie.
Oh.
Which, did you know that this is based on a movie? This is where this comes in for those viewers watching. Did you know that the sound of a T-Rex roar in Jurassic Park was actually created by combining the sounds of a tiger, elephant, and alligator?
I did not know that.
I guess it makes sense though, because like when you combine all the sounds together, it could be its own thing. So it's something that people haven't heard before when they could tag it as a dinosaur, since we don't really know what they sounded like.
They must have been going crazy in the studio making that. I know that beat was just sick. Like they're just, dropping different animal roars and like going crazy.
We talk about like music industry. I wonder what it was like for making that track. Which, honestly, that kind of leads us into our topic for today, being nature versus film, because Jurassic Park was one of the first, film / movie series that kind of showed resurrection biology, which we've talked about in previous episodes about, how luckily it didn't portray it in a way for, de-extinction to be necessarily a good thing, but it did kind of change history in a way of, paleontology, genetics, bioinformatics, everything that has to do with making something new or kind of something that we thought would once roam the earth but didn't. So that's kind of cool. Which the whole theme of nature versus film is for us going to be mainly focused on the fact that how do people emotionally connect to film and how does that impact their relationship with nature. So I guess going off of our Jurassic Park fact, I don't know, it's a fun fact thing. So for those listening, if you want to head over to our YouTube, we kind of talked about that if you want to hear more about it. But how that plays into part with our topic has to do with maybe people were wow, dinosaurs, I wonder how fossils are made or were found, and how people thought or how they knew what dinosaurs maybe looked like or something of that nature. So they were kind of tied to it and maybe wanted to binge watch the whole series to kind of see how that played out, which honestly, if you hadn't really known much about paleontology, that could be a false image to start on. But it definitely does show just how much nature plays a part, or how film plays a part in nature.
Definitely. And I think film can be very important because film is made for the general public most of the time. If it's going in the movie theaters, anybody could watch this, paleontologist or not, scientist or not. And I am honestly glad we have Jurassic Park to be a testament to why we maybe shouldn't dabble in bringing back a species from the dead, I guess, if you want to say it like that. As we talked about in a previous episode with de-evolution, it might not be the best idea because we would have no idea how to handle dinosaurs, just stomping around Atlanta and stomping around just anywhere. It wouldn't work. But on the flip side, nature can also be portrayed as, it can be glorified in a better way, more of a refuge or a serene, peaceful place. And while I was doing research and coming up with some talking points for this episode, I was just thinking about how nature plays a really indirect role sometimes. It's just the backdrop, but it's not just the backdrop. My favorite example of this is in the Lord of the Rings series.
Yes, I was going to bring that up too.
Yes, because I love Lord of the Rings, y'all. I'm so mad. I have a shirt with Legolas on it, and I should have worn it, and I'm so mad at myself. Anyway, but that is my favorite thing ever, and the scenery in those movies is just beautiful. I cannot get over it. I need to go to New Zealand. I need to stand on those exact spots now. Now. It's gorgeous.
Imagine Green Thread takes a visit to the Hobbit.
No, literally. We should. We'll start a GoFundMe, please. Fund our travels to New Zealand.
I mean, that would be great. Stuff for y'all, content. So
yeah, it'd be great content for you guys. Come on.
Double benefit. Which actually, speaking of this, that shows just how prominent film can be in like tourism
Mhm.
and how people like see things, and even if like there wasn't a spot necessarily dedicated somewhere for that set, or maybe it was just like a Hollywood set versus an actual place, that could change a little bit. But at the same rate, like it's the same thing for any film. Like if they're in a spot that looks so like not fantasy like but almost like too good to be true, you're
Mhm.
like, I want to go to there. So this is a great example because I was about to talk about that of like how with the Jurassic Park kind of theme, I found that they actually boosted tourism rates in Hawaii after the
Oh,
film came
okay.
out.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things, and like that makes sense because even for shows,
Mhm.
we're technically located in South Georgia right now, and near my hometown was where they filmed The Walking Dead.
Mm.
And I remember before that like show became a big thing, like people knew about the town but didn't really come to visit for that reason,
Mhm.
or for any reason, particularly just to come down here if they needed somewhere to go in like a downtown area. But after it kind of blew up, it was like I couldn't go and sit at my coffee shop because there's just so many tourists going on those little
Yeah.
like guided tours, and I was like, who are you? Why are you here?
Yeah, literally. The same thing with Stranger Things. If you're a Stranger Things
Yes.
fan, I'm up in North Georgia right now, and we at in Rome at Berry College is where they filmed part of. I can't remember exactly. It was Nancy going to the asylum to visit
Yes.
that man. I can't even remember his name. It's been a while. Stranger Things season 5, please come out. I'm begging you.
I know.
But there were so many people all the time, and I mean that's just a beautiful campus anyway for its nature and scenery. But people were coming there for that, and then there's an old historic home in Rome, gorgeous. But that was
Yes.
used as the home as well in that season. I can't remember the guy's name. I don't know.
We'll
But
insert
anyway,
it.
yeah, we'll insert it somewhere, whatever. I don't know. If you've seen Stranger Things, you probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, nature, tourism, film, it all can just be one big Venn diagram because there's also ecotourism and then
Yes.
tourism from film and nature and film. It can all tie in into one.
Exactly. Which there's based on a study done by Hospitality ON or on, they said that over 50% of travelers that like are in states that have production of destination choices had a boosted economy. They also like just had a better overall viewpoint of that city. Say like they had maybe a bad rep through socioeconomic margins. They like now are somewhere that people actually want to go as like a destination hotspot. So like it kind of boosted their rep. What is that? What am I trying to look for?
Repertoire?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
Reputation too.
Reputation.
But that was one of the things I was like, that makes it all, like you said, ties together. And it's not only because of like people wanting to go out and like view nature, they also are like, I want to just be a part of it. Kind of that's where it brings in that emotion because then people think they're in the movie. And so it kind of like psychologically throws you for a twist of like, this isn't a real world, but it's somewhere that is real. Like that house you're talking about in Rome, like I remember passing by it and I would just like be in awe, just like looking, being like, well, first of all, the cast was here. Come on.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
the first like fangirl moment.
Uh-huh.
But then just like also seeing that maybe there's CGI effects that happened in the actual end product, but overall it's a real thing. Which I don't know if anybody out there has seen Timothy Green. That was one of my favorite like first like nature films of a boy being literally planted in the soil, which if you haven't seen it, I just spoiled a little bit of it. But the house there is in my hometown and it's gorgeous as well. Like those Victorian homes. First of all, why do we not like build houses like that?
Bring that back.
Yeah.
Let's bring that back. Victorian Homes 2025.
Yeah, no more box houses. I don't know
No,
why y'all
I'm
think those are cute.
Sick of that. Sick of it.
Yep, me too. Why would he want to live in a box? I don't know.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. But when we're talking about film induced tourism, that term was actually like coined by someone. His last name is Beaton, Beeton, and that was in 2005. So he kind of like found out that there's an actual like reference for that, and there's a word, like we've always says, there's a word for everything. But I really wanted to touch base on like how film induced tourism plays a part in sustainable living, because I also think when we're talking about all these like just architectural and even just a destinational type of viewpoint, we forget that like we know the harm in going to those places and like over exploiting like the chains over there, and not like the local business part of it and small business part of it can get kind of overshadowed by that. But for like the general public, it's really important to know that when there are hotspots like this that you're seeing everybody go to, especially with Stranger Things. I'm thinking of like people wanting to go to the Hawkins Middle School before they tore it down, which rip. But that's one of those things where that building was already kind of abandoned, so that's not really a good example. But just the idea of like everybody was filming it and saying go here, like this is a cool place to go. It's just keep in your mind that that can also have some negative consequences if you aren't careful, which is why like it's just I didn't want to like go without saying that as like a warning, which we don't want to always seems so kind of negative, but it is something to always keep in mind so that you're not like overdoing what you are doing. Wow, that literally was the worst wording I could ever think of.
No, I love it. Overdoing what you're doing.
I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind, and I just let it go. My brain's like working on 0.2 speed, guys. Sorry. But on the flip side of this, films do like especially ones that have strong environmental themes, they do actually bring awareness to problems. So there is a good like viewpoint of film and nature and like destinations and tourism, because according to Fernandez, Bellin, and Kane, they said that films with strong environmental themes may actually help to raise awareness and conservation issues because they kind of give a rise in like a short form media in terms of keeping people actually like entertained. It's really hard for people nowadays with their short attention span to like watch the entire film or like think too far into it. So like being able to put it into forms that people can digest easily, but also show them legitimate issues and how to combat those issues is really important. There's a lot of documentaries on Netflix especially that have a sad undertone because of the fact that we are talking about these things and filming these things so late in the game, but it is good to show that for educational purposes.
Yes, and as you've been talking the whole time, I'm like so excited to mention one of my favorite examples is the Lorax. That is one of my favorite examples of environmental themes in film. I mean, it is still going on to this day, people just dressing up like the Lorax for fun or for a frat party or just whatever. I don't know, whatever people do now. But that is so, it's entertaining, it's animated, it's easy for people of all ages to digest, and it's a pretty simple message that is a pretty clear message as well. Another film that I was just going to mention, well, also on the note of documentaries, I watched, this was a few years ago now, but it was called Our Planet on Netflix. It's more of a docu-series. It goes by episodes, and I believe it goes through different biomes. I can't really remember, or at least different types of species. Like one was more Arctic focused, one was more forest focused, etc. But that one was really good. It's kind of almost formatted the same as our podcast. Like it starts off just giving you information, things are good, and then at the end it's like, but this species is declining. And I'm like, okay, I just watched this feel good, like, oh, I love animals, I love this. And then it's like, well, this species is now extinct. And I'm like, okay. But it would end on a better note than that. But towards the end, it would give us that doom and gloom part. And I'm like, oh, okay, which, you know, you got to keep it real. That's really important because, you know, you see, you fall in love with these species and then it like rips your heart out at the end. And honestly, you should feel that way because there's things that you can do to help. And the fact that these species and these ecosystems are being destroyed is heartbreaking. It really is. Another film that's animated that's kind of just one of my favorite by far is Princess Mononoke. It's a Studio Ghibli film. It's not necessarily just about the environment, but there is a struggle between like one town trying to mine iron, and then there's like a girl who's raised by wolves in the forest, which like so relatable me when I'm raised by wolves. But I think it's really, really cool, and it gets kind of dark at some points, but I think on that kind of serious note, again, it kind of needs to be a little bit dark because it's like, look at what is happening and what could potentially happen. So I highly recommend that too. And that kind of, it's got like a fun, not necessarily fun, but just mystical undertone to it. It's got like forest gods and things like that. So, you know, if you're into it, go watch it. I think it's cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to throw in some stats because what you were talking about introduces the idea of like how this could actually impact viewership and like people and being able to um like learn, but also like you said, kind of be aware of the negative consequences of what's happening out there. So with this specific like example, I found a study done. I'll have to like actually link them down below, but it said that Planet Earth 2 specifically significantly boosted wiki searches because people were like, "Ooh, what's that species?" or "What does this do?" So like it definitely shows that people are taking it and wanting to learn more, which is a good like reassurance for us as educationists that we're like, oh, people are actually wanting to learn about it. It's just a matter of how the message is portrayed. If they're able to kind of stay on theme or even like wanting to dive more into like areas within environment field. But there's people out there that have done this and have like taken the extra toll to kind of see who is digesting it and how they are. And so to see that there are people that are searching things up after is like very nice, because sometimes I do worry a lot, especially when you're talking about like they'll do all the happy things and then just boom, like shoot you down at the end.
Yeah.
Like I always worry that the way that they're showcasing these things and the way that they're like putting it together and like the editing side of it, if it will make or break whether or not people enjoy it, because you could have great content and like say really really accurate things and just have it set up perfectly. And we're honestly as new podcasters learning this as well, of like we could say all these great things and then if we don't showcase it the right way, it just completely flops. So I think it's a really good a reminder that you just got to keep doing it enough times and to learn what people want to watch and how they watch it, and that way you can get the message through quicker.
Absolutely, because presentation, I mean, that goes a lot into what we do. We try to, not make an hour-long episode so you guys will stay with us. We're like, hello, stay with us here, please, please, keep your eyes up here. But yeah, that's such a great point, and that goes into anything. That goes into education about it, that goes into entertainment about it, and it can be both at the same time. And I remember one of the first, I think it was probably the first nature film, documentary, anything that I watched was Disney's film that they made called Earth.
Yes.
I remember my class, that was made in 2007, I believe. And my class took a field trip. They like rented out the movie theater that day or something, and we all watched it. And I was really young when I watched it. I don't know if I watched it the year that it came out. I would have only been 4 years old, but I just remember that so well, and it was so fascinating to watch. I mean, just that feeling of seeing that for the first time and seeing like what's in the world. It just really, I think that ultimately planted that seed in my heart. It just kind of, I don't know. I think that's really, really cool, and that's kind of just what got me interested in the first place. But going back to what you were saying, people boosting searches, things like that. That definitely makes a whole lot of sense, and the presentation matters. It matters.
It does, because otherwise, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing what you're doing? Which it is, in the grand scheme of like presenting it, important to not romanticize these things too, because we were talking about Lord of the Rings. That's a great example of like this place feels like unreal, which to an extent it isn't, just because I know they had a lot of CGI to like expand the horizon. But as far as like New Zealand itself is a gorgeous place anyway, so like it is somewhere I would definitely like recommend to go. But in terms of the idea of conservation and environmental issues and just anything in general that like brings about kind of a negative tone because of what we're doing as our impact on the planet, it's just really important for them to not skim over that or to completely make it out to be something that's like 100% positive, because that might be easier to digest, because good news is always so much easier to consume and remember, but it does kind of take away from the overall like idea of what's going on. Otherwise we're going to be distracted. I really feel like any current film that like plays a part in this is just there for distraction about what, instead of like what's actually going on, which is why we're like, wake up, like listen, like view us please, because we're trying to show that there was a study done by Silk et al., which kind of explained that a little bit, and I can put like some quotes from it, and also I'll link it down below as well. But just so you can kind of see what other people have done. But for the overall idea of romanticizing it, that's just something you should critique. If you're ever watching any of these, like you said, Earth, or like even Life on Planet, and like in all these other Netflix documentaries, or any documentaries you can find that talk about the Earth and evolution and everything that comes around with that, just be very critical on the back of your mind. Just like, how are they showing us? Is the information they're giving us real? Like, up to date for that matter? Like, what is their overall goal of what they're doing? Because if they're just kind of spewing things at you with no general direction of what they're wanting to say, then that's probably a red flag of like what their overall like idea of what they want to show you is. Which can kind of pose more threats on this topic anyways, because then you have people that are simplifying it, and that can showcase unsustainable actions and overall make our job harder, because then we're like, wait, no, that's not true. But if we don't have the same like fan base or same like platform to kind of critique these people, then that misinformation just gets like mass distributed across all populations. But
Yeah, and it's very easy to skew something, especially when it's being romanticized
yes,
or glorified in any way. It's so easy to just take that and just run with it. People do it all the time. We see it on social media. We see it everywhere. And the cast and production crew that works on a film, animated or live action, is very, very important. As I was doing my research, I'm not a big movie watcher, y'all. I'm so sorry. I hate to disappoint, but getting to know me is just figuring out how many movies I have not watched. I tell that to people all the time. But I found a movie called The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio, and he made a very important step, I think, for I know we talked about this in a very early episode about celebrities and activism. But in his speech, when he received an Oscar for that film, I have the direct quote. He said, "Climate change is real. It is happening right now. It is the most urgent threat facing our entire species, and we need to work collectively together and stop procrastinating. Let us not take this planet for granted." And I am so glad that he used his stage to say something like that. And even though it's not, this TED Talk or, whatever, it's not necessarily educational. It's just like, hey, pay attention. You just watched this film. I haven't seen the film, but it came up when I was searching nature and film. But, you just watched this film, and, like, for him to actually say something about it and address the real problem in real life on that stage is a very big thing. And I wish I would have looked more and see if anybody else has done that. But I think more people need to use their platform like that, especially in film, to advocate for sustainability and climate change and real world environmental problems.
yeah, and I actually have a couple more people to go off of that, but I'm really glad you brought up Leonardo DiCaprio, because I know he has a lot of controversy in like his personal life, but as far as like his purpose and his platform and what he believes in, he is a huge environmentalist, and I have constantly been keeping up with like his social media of like what he's posting and like the projects he's working on and the funds he's given to a bunch of like conservation projects, and it's just remarkable to see people like that, especially like you said, celebrities with platforms. And actually, speaking of him, he did co-produce and direct and write a movie called The 11th Hour, which if you haven't seen it, it's big on the climate crisis and just like anything to do with how global temperatures are rising and what that's doing to our environment. And to see that people like that are also just like doing it themselves rather than like kind of coming on the back burner and saying stuff about it, they're actually doing it, is so cool. And it's very important, which when we're talking about nature and film, I bet you, I don't bet money because I don't have money, but I bet you that your first thought was David Attenborough, because that is the global man.
That was my first thought. Like, that is the voice of this, like, easily.
I mean, being a naturalist, but also being kind of like someone who's a little celebrity in the science field because this man has a constellation named after him. He has 40 plus animals and plants named after him too, which is a really fun fact that I learned. But he's like the voice of so many documentaries and so many natural films and everything to do with it. And he's just been a big advocator for this problem. I guess some examples, if you want to go look at him, if you have not seen anything, which if you haven't, do you live under a rock? Because
right, once you hear his voice, it will all come back to you like that. Like, oh, I've heard this voice before.
yeah, exactly. Him and Snoop Dogg. I love Snoop Dogg like talking, but Life on Earth is a good one. I actually have watched that one, and it is a very accurate representation of what happened in evolution and just like how it's been going on. The Blue Planet, have not seen that one, but it looked good. Private Life of Plants. What?
Private Life of Pants.
My mind works so much faster than my mouth there, or vice versa. But those are some of like his films. And then there's also someone called, hopefully I will not butcher this, but Werner Herzog. He filmed some like Into the Abyss. So there are like different little areas in film that they have showed this, which I guess fantasy versus nonfiction is another thing to go into, because I know like Into the Wild's nonfiction, but it doesn't feel like it because you're watching it through like a fantasized like realm. But then Lord of the Rings is fantasy, and a bunch of other ones like that can showcase a world like Avatar, things like that. So I think it just depends on how or what viewpoint they're coming at or what they're like focusing on in the film. But it does make me really happy when people with the big platforms and just like even directors in general decide, yeah, we probably should put this out. Like, this is a really good idea for, like, not even Hollywood, but just in general.
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to just say, if y'all have any movie recs, comment them, please. If y'all nature, you know what, or not, because you would be amazed at the movies that I have not seen. I'm telling you, I'm being honest as hell right now. Like I have not seen any type of, like, there's just a whole list. So please, if y'all have any, especially nature ones, though, if y'all have any documentaries or just fun fantasy films that are about nature, please send them our way.
Yeah, I can second that. Every time that we talk about movies, I'm like, have you seen that? I have to like ask that now as a precursor to make sure I'm not just talking. And then she's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, if you're even gonna ask me, have you seen blah blah, just the answer is no. I'm sorry, the answer is no. If it's not the whole Fast and Furious series or La La Land or Barbie, I'm sorry, I haven't seen it.
I mean, you are the real life Barbie though, so it makes sense. Anyways, if y'all want any more like details on this topic, we hopefully will dive in further in future episodes. But for now, this is kind of the best like precursor episode for a series about nature and film, because it's a huge area, and I think it's really important because that's basically how most people find out about things happening. So how that, like we said, how that message is being portrayed is the most important step in like globally identifying the climate crisis and what we can do to help, which there's always things to do to help. We have talked about this in many, many episodes. So it's not about like identifying what's wrong. That's not what like we're trying to do. It's just to show that it is important to notate where you're finding or where you're watching what's going on or how you're learning about it, and make sure that it's not like romanticizing and being all happy instead of like identifying the pros and cons and just the awareness and education. But with that being said, the conversation does not have to end here, and we will see you next time.